Sure. My name is Nina Tovish. I'm a candidate for Asheville City Council. I want to just let you know that this was something that was never on my bucket list. I kind of came to it out of a sense of obligation rather than aspiration. I fought against it for a long time. I've been paying attention to what's been going on with our city government because I love this place and I love its diversity. I love its people with their strong opinions and their creative minds. And I think we deserve better than the city government that we have now. And I'm happy to tell you more about how and why if you want to get into the nitty-gritty of it. But I'm really pleased to have the opportunity to speak with you. Education is not, other than being somewhat overeducated myself, education is not a field in which I have any degree of expertise, except as a consumer. And I just want you to understand up front that I do not have anything that could be described as in-depth knowledge of issues or policies or anything like that. So responses that you will get from me will be based more on my values and from what I've heard from others than it will be on some kind of reservoir of knowledge, experience, or wisdom that I have myself.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Nina. Well, based on your observations and what you've heard from other people, we're just going to jump right into these questions. What are Asheville and Buncombe County schools doing well? And in what ways do you feel our schools need to improve?
My impression is that our local schools are serving some students quite well and others very much not so well. And I know that there are a complex web of reasons why that might be the case. Some of them are legacy historical issues, some of them are very much current pressing issues, some of which have grown out of the history but which are still very much with us. It seems to me that one of the things that is not going well, and this is not necessarily the fault of our local school systems at all, but of the state level, where we're not getting the kind of pay and support that our educators need, and that we're having a drain of qualified, experienced people leaving and having a hard time finding qualified and eager people to come into the system. And that's a problem that can't be solved purely on the local level. We can do some things, I think, on the local level. Maybe finding a way to do something for housing affordability for educators and city employees. Affordable housing is a problem for everyone. If we could start to address that in a comprehensive way, that's going to serve everyone well, but it will also make a big difference to educators and other city or county staff. What I hear about things that are being done well is that when the educators are given the opportunity to be creative and exploratory in their teaching styles, we get classrooms that are filled with eager and engaged learners. And when we have the opportunity to have extracurricular activities that are enriching and the city has programs that can meet those, that can also be an opportunity for real enrichment in the learning experience. All of this is said from a place of humbleness, which is I do not have deep knowledge of these. But this is kind of what I'm hearing from the people I've talked to about this.
Thank you, Nina. So I'm going to ask you the next question.
Okay.
Take a breath. All right. What students are underserved by our local schools and community? And how would you, as a member of City Council, help serve these students better?
This is something I addressed, with a broad gesture in the questionnaire that I returned to you all. And the best thing that City Council can do for the segment of our population which is underserved, and those in most cases are going to be marginalized communities, historically silenced, disempowered, segregated, people of color, and other communities that have not been part of the expansion of our economy the way that they should have been. The city can address that by turning more of its attention to the core services that those families need in order for their children to be healthy, able to get to and from school easily, able to participate in extracurricular activities, to have the right kind of nutrition, to have access to supplemental tutoring or special services that they need, and to the extent that and of course safe and affordable housing, which is an absolute bedrock of being able to be prepared to go and learn. If you're sleeping in your car, that's not a situation that's going to be conducive to learning. If you're in a homeless shelter, a congregate shelter with a whole bunch of chaos going on, that's not an environment that's going to be conducive to getting you to an environment where you're supposed to have the wherewithal to concentrate and be prepared to learn. So I think that every one of the city policies that can be directed towards the folks who are already struggling will help our students be better prepared to learn and will help support them in their efforts. So the good news is if you help that whole segment of the community, you automatically help the students. And I don't see the degree of commitment to that I would like coming out of council right now.
Thank you. I'm going to ask you the third question. What role does City Council play in shaping public education, including curriculum, content, public health, safety, or other issues? And what do you need in order to fulfill these responsibilities in terms of information or resources or anything else?
So I'm not really clear about the mechanics of this. But it doesn't seem to me that City Council should be telling our schools what curriculum to teach. I think that that's something that should be coming from the educational community and from the families that are being served by the city schools. I'm skeptical about a top-down mandate of that. My sense, and please correct me if I'm mistaken, is that curricula either is happening at the state level or it's a city school system and county school system responsibility. Am I right about that? Is that technically correct? Okay. So could you list for me the other things that you mentioned as responsibilities there?
Sure, yeah. So these are just examples. The broader question is, what role does City Council play in shaping our public education? And then what do you need in order to fill that role?
Well, I see the role of City Council as being a backstop to ensure that the promises that are being made to our community are being fulfilled. The promises being made by the school system are being fulfilled. How much direct power city council has to do that, I'm not, there's like no enforcement thing. I'm very pleased that we're moving to an elected school board. I think that that will empower residents to have a more direct pipeline for what they need. And I see the city's responsibilities as providing the supporting systems. And in conjunction with the county, that means things like school buses and, getting the food, make sure that the food is arriving when it's supposed to, all those kind of things that create the environment, and being cheerleaders for our educators, raising and restoring the respect that people who teach and who work in schools deserve, and ultimately having the compensation structure reflect that respect and excellence that is already there and that should be more properly rewarded. Tell me if I'm missing something, because, again, tell me what I missed in that.
I mean, that sounds good. It's we're just sort of trying to understand where you're coming from with it. Different people have different sort of philosophies of governance, and so trying to find out, where you're coming
for
from.
me, my key belief about our city government is that policy and ordinances should not be passed until the people who are going to be affected by them have a real opportunity to participate in their development. And that everyone in the community who's going to be affected has the opportunity to participate at a point in the process where it can actually make a difference. Without that, it's a nod towards democracy, but not real democracy. I can go on and on about what I consider to be responsive, transparent, and accountable government, but that applies to every aspect of government for me, and therefore to the extent that City Council has a role in it, it's extremely important that as a member of council, I be in conversation with the communities who are stakeholders in this, and that means families, that means the people who are doing the education, that means whoever is developing the budget, to the extent that the budget and the taxation is something that's within the city's purview. All of that requires a participatory process so that it isn't just something that happens behind closed doors, so that people can see how it's happening and they can participate in order to affect it positively.
Well, we had just one final, just open-ended question, which is, are there issues that we haven't covered that are important to your candidacy?
There are two important things for me that we didn't necessarily mention. One is, and I mentioned this in my responses in the questionnaire, I believe very strongly in the importance of labor unions and professional associations and their value in providing the folks who belong to them the real opportunity to change the conditions of their working environment. And I am a huge supporter of unions, and I have tremendous respect for the value of collective bargaining and for the ability of folks to get redress of the grievances that way and to have support from their colleagues and co-workers. So to the extent that that's something that applies to people in city schools, I'd like to see that acknowledged and respected and supported by council. I also think that we're in danger in general on the national level, on the state level, on the county level, and on the municipal level of losing sight of the elements that make a democratic system really work. And one of the cornerstones of that is public education. And I don't hear enough discourse these days about why public education, freely available, high quality public education, is so incredibly important in maintaining democratic institutions and shaping citizens who can participate knowledgeably and constructively in both the economy, but even beyond that, most importantly, in the political discourse of the day, and have a genuine understanding of how our society functions, how it's supposed to function, where it's failed, its history, all of that. For that, we need great public education that serves everybody equally in it, with equity and inclusion at its foundation. That's what our residents deserve, and it's what will ensure that we have a democracy in the next generation. So that's like a huge deal to me. And it sounds, I'm worried when I talk about this stuff that it sounds highfalutin or it sounds abstract, but I don't think it's abstract at all. I think those issues of like what books should be in libraries and what should be taught in what curricula, all this stuff is incredibly important to ensure that students have access to a full range of educational materials and that their teachers are empowered to bring the full range of human experience in front of them in a way that is useful to them understanding what roles they can have in the broadest range of roles that they can have in our society. So, I don't think it's abstract at all. I think it's very concrete and vital and really, really important for our future as a society. And so I'll stop there.
Well, thank you so much, Nina. I really appreciate it. That was all our questions. So we are going to be interviewing over the next 2 weeks, and then we'll have one final meeting and figure out our endorsements, and they should come out, I think, around the end of August.
Okay, wonderful. And thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. And one last thing that I'd like to add is, despite my lack of direct experience with what you all do, I truly honor and value the commitment that it takes to serve in public schools in whatever capacity it is, whether you're a janitor, whether you're an educator, whether you're an administrator. This is a huge and really important social responsibility. And so I just want you to know that because of the respect I have for that, I would be really honored if you would lend me your good word. So please endorse me.
Well, thank you, Nina. I really appreciate you being here today.
Thank you all very much, and it was lovely to meet you, and I look forward to when our paths cross next.
All right, thanks. Take care.
Bye.